Well, welcome everybody. I'm Sabrina Alley. I am the Communications and Community Engagement Director for HOST. She, her, hers. I am happy to have you all today joining us for the Housing Strategic Stability Advisors meeting. And we will just go ahead and kick it off. I'll give it to Jenny Rogers to go ahead and get us started with our meeting.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're excited to have you here today. Thanks to all the HOST strategic advisors for joining. And for those of you who may be joining from the public, we have a great agenda. So Sabrina, did you want to go over the agenda for today? Or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So this morning we will start, as always, with our land acknowledgement roll call and review and approval of our past meeting minutes. And then we will do our advisors round robin updates, which have been extremely helpful. After that, we'll have some updates from HOST staff and our introduction of our new executive director, as well as a quick overview of Mayor Johnston's 2024 proposed budget, which just came out yesterday, and then an overview of the upcoming actions and timelines related to our 2024 action plan, which, as you know, we have to make some updates to align with that budget. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then end with a discussion and approval of the 2024 action plan for us to put that out for public comment and continue to receive input on that before you all are asked to vote on a final version in December. So with that, I'll kick it over to Jenny for the land acknowledgement.
Thanks. So the Denver Housing Strategic Advisors, Denver Housing Stability Strategic Advisors, honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequalities and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities in Denver. With that, we're going to do the roll call. So do you want me to do that, or Sabrina?
I can do that. I'm happy to do that. Kuika Montoya. Don't see Kuika. Jenny Rogers.
Present.
Myra Gonzalez.
Present.
Thomas Allen. Okay. Josh Capel.
Here.
Kristen Toombs.
Here.
Melanie Lewis Dickerson.
Here and eating breakfast. I'm going to leave my video off for a minute.
Thanks, Melanie. Randy Kilborn. Okay. Mark Marshall. And Jamie Reif. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3.
Do we have a quorum?
We have 5 of 10. Oh no, we're good. We have 6 of 11. Sorry. Yes, we have a quorum. So we're good to move forward with public comment.
Thank you. With that, whoops, sorry. We're going to move to public comment. So I'd like to invite members of the public who want to make any public comment to please come off mute. And please, if you want to make a comment, state your first and last name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to take themselves off mute and make a comment?
You may need to raise your hands and we can unmute you.
Great. Okay. Doesn't seem like we have any public comments, so we can move into approval of our July 21st meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the July 21st, 2023 Host Strategic Advisors meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Josh. Can I ask for a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Anyone who would like to approve the minutes, please say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? All right. We've moved the minutes to approval. Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry, who was it that seconded? Was that Melanie?
Myra?
Myra. Thank you. Sorry, it's hard to see everybody. I'm
Sorry, I
trying
mean,
to
it was
recognize
Melanie.
Oh, it was Melanie. I'm sorry.
Okay, I
Sorry.
thought it was, okay.
I was writing things down and missed it too. Great.
I think Myra was trying. I think we were both getting off mute. So
Thank you.
Appreciate everyone participating in that. Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to go to our advisors round robin. So this is the opportunity for our advisors to share what you're hearing in community, what you know from your own work, and things that you think would be helpful for the host staff and for the other advisors to hear. So let's see, Myra, do you want to start? Do you have anything that you'd like to share?
Yes, and I'll divide my comments into two different sections. The first one being with the migrant crises and what we're seeing at shelters. One of the things that we're hearing from our community partners and our community organizers is that there is not a lot of accountability being held at these hotels where the migrants are staying. And so we're seeing situations where people are being punished punitively and being kicked out or forced out of the hotel before the 30 days notice. And so we're seeing people being kicked out after 10 days with nowhere to go for infractions such as bringing food in to their rooms, having conversations in hallways, things that just don't seem like normal, typical things or rules that would require such a high action with such difficult consequences. The other thing that we're hearing is that for the nonprofits who received funding to support folks to get into housing, their timelines are way too prolonged. And so it might take somebody 15 days to go through an application process. And within those 15 days, they have to have found a job, received a letter from their employer, and found housing in order for that nonprofit to be able to help them or support them with any financial support, which is just, it's too tight of a turnaround. And so we're seeing a lot of folks out in the Montbello area knocking on our nonprofits' doors. Just last week, one of our staff members was rushing to try and help 10 different families because they had been kicked out of the hotels without notice. And so our nonprofit partners are having to scramble to try and support folks where we haven't received any support in order to do so. And so we're really concerned about what is happening at these hotels, the accountability with the staff and how they're, evicting people with or without cause. And then the last one is a concern over the, I won't call it a concern, but just knowing that we have processes and know we're talking about our action plan for the upcoming year. With the town halls that are occurring and a lot of the promises that are being made by our new administration, the concern that that is not being trickled down into this process. And so just wanting to have more clarity about how do we support versus potentially create situations where staff are now having to last minute respond and come up with solutions to promises that are being made at town hall meetings. I know a big one has been to support nonprofits and to stepping up and supporting housing and shelter operations. But there's very little support for nonprofits to be able to take on that role and responsibility. And so there's a lot of angst, particularly out in the far Northeast around these two issues and what we're seeing right now.
Thank you, Myra. Okay, Josh, or does anyone from Host want to respond? Myra first?
I think
Okay.
I'll just acknowledge, Myra, thank you, especially for your feedback on migrant sheltering issues. I know some of what you're describing around the timeline for support for those who are new arrivals to our community with 21 or 30 days is some similar feedback that Host has provided along the way as far as the length of time it takes for someone to find stability. Some of the balance that our city has had to strike with that is also reimbursement from the federal government, which does set some timelines and parameters around 30 days to be eligible for federal reimbursement. But I did type up your concerns and we'll send a note over to our partners at Denver Human Services that are working on migrant sheltering issues to share some of that feedback directly. And I just appreciate you sharing that with us. So wanted to acknowledge that and say thanks.
Thank you. Melanie, I saw your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Not to add, I wasn't sure if we were raising our hand or if we were going to go around all of us. So I'm happy to
Go
wait.
ahead. Why don't you go ahead and then I just wrote everybody's name down in the order that they.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. I want to miss the opportunity. I wanted to share a bit of a good news story that I don't think everybody has regular line of sight on. So most folks I think do know, and it's in our strategic plan, the work with Built for Zero here in the metro area and the regional collaboration. Folks have been working on that for a long time and really in a concerted way, going back the last couple of years through MDHI's leadership and other partners. And we just, as of September 1st, when we reconciled our veteran data, are down to now 364 veterans on the regional by name list. And that represents a 40% reduction since January of 2020. So a pretty significant amount of work that so many community partners and the VA and others have been kind of chipping away at for the last few years. And of those 364 veterans in the region, 248 of them are connected to a housing resource. So they have SSVF or a VASH voucher or some other type of resource and are actively trying to find a unit. And then the outreach teams are actively working with the around 120 or so folks that are not connected and reaching out to them and trying to get them connected, kind of on that path. So I think, positive outcomes, coming out of this, just a lot of folks that have done really amazing work and are continuing to move that forward. Where that also puts my brain is needing to, I think, elevate the conversation within the veteran work as kind of proof of concept around more targeted prevention. Because we know the numbers can keep going down if we can also provide some supports and kind of bend the curve on inflow of folks coming in. And so I'm hoping we'll have more conversations, with this group and with that group of providers moving forward about how we can maybe focus on the upstream part of the system a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you. Totally agree with that. Anybody from Host? All right, Josh, you're up next on my list.
Nothing to share at this point that I can think of. Thank you, though.
Okay, great. Kristen?
Good morning, everybody. Kristen Toombs with Division of Housing. We did just release our annual Emergency Solutions Grant Notice of Funding Availability, and that includes a combination of funding sources, our annual allocation from HUD for ESG, as well as some of the Proposition 123 funds. So if nonprofits or local governments are looking to see how to access Prop 123 for activities such as outreach, shelter, rapid rehousing and prevention, you would go through that NOFA. And the webinar was just done yesterday, and so we'll be posting that on our website soon, hopefully today, if not by early next week. And the applications are due October 2nd. So happy to talk with folks if you're interested in applying or have questions about the NOFA. Also more than happy to talk with friends at Host about, as fellow funders, coordinating just how we think about what applications do come in from the Denver area to serve, just so that we're connecting the dots. As always, we found it really beneficial that when we connect with you all, if somebody has come in asking for funds from us, but you intentionally did not feel that was a priority, we don't want to inadvertently row in a different direction. And so would appreciate being able to just connect with you all within the lines of procurement. Obviously, there's certain things we won't be able to share or decisions we'll have to make separate. But as fellow funders, I do think it's important for us to collaborate. And we've done that in the past and appreciate that. Other than that, we will be going before our board, hopefully on the 26th. That is our second state housing board meeting. Just so folks know, the Division of Housing has a state housing board by statute that we take funding recommendations to, and they ultimately review those. And then their recommendation goes before our leadership at the Department of Local Affairs. So that's how our funding decisions typically are made. There are some exceptions, but that's the typical way. And so on the 26th, and that is a public meeting, so folks can join that. Information is on our website. We are hoping to be able to take our recommendations for the Metro Regional Navigation Campus applications. So folks, remember the state did give funds to the Division of Housing to fund regional navigation campuses in the metro area. An amendment was done last year to say that we could fund more than one. We received 6 applications asking for more than 87 million of the 45 million we have available. So we are working really hard with the various applicants, including the city and county of Denver, but there are 5 others, around just making sure we have all of the information we need to be able to make decisions and have that go before our board on the 26th. So stay tuned for that. And then Ridgeview is a regional campus that, although that is in Arapahoe County in the city of Watkins, that will be a transitional housing and treatment campus that is open to folks experiencing homelessness that are looking at recovery. So absolutely can be utilized, we hope, will be utilized by folks who are residing without housing in the Denver city and county of Denver, as well as the rest of the state. We are finalizing that master plan and then hope to have a request for proposals to doing the renovation of the campus based on that, hopefully in October. So we're trying to move really fast for that, so then we can have renovations get going in 24 and complete, so we can start having folks use that space. And of course, to use it is not just renovating the space, but also having awesome providers there to provide the support. So we will be doing a procurement request for partners to serve in that space as well. So we will be sure to keep this group posted on that, because that will be absolutely a resource that can be utilized. Although it is not physically in Denver, it'll be a great resource for our partners to utilize and for the folks without housing, should they choose to want to work on recovery as part of their path towards stability. So again, there's the ESG NOFA due October 2nd. We hope to go before the board with the navigation campus decisions on September 26th. And we will keep you posted as we finalize that master plan for Ridgeview and have the procurement opportunities that are based on the information we gained from that for the Ridgeview campus. There are many other updates, but I think those are the key ones for this group to know. Happy to check in about anything else. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody have questions, comments for Kristen? That was really helpful.
Kristen, would you mind sending, this is Sabrina, would you mind sending us those key dates just in an email, and we'd be happy to share them out with our stakeholders as well?
I absolutely can, and I'll throw in the links that are helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you. I just have one quick update. Enterprise is going to start hosting a resilience academy for nonprofit partners from across the state and actually the region, including Utah, Montana, Wyoming, and New Mexico. This academy kicks off October 5th and will run through the end of the year. It's free and hosted by our national resilience team, and it's really meant for nonprofits that have a portfolio of affordable housing developments who are interested in greening their developments, learning how to keep building safe in the face of climate disaster, and even planning internally for best practices and procedures for your organization if disaster does hit. So if anyone's interested, and Sabrina, I can send you, I think I did send to Jill the link for signing up for that academy. We just extended the invitation till the 21st. So would love to see as many of our nonprofit partners apply as we can. Does anybody have any other updates? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Laura for hosting.
Josh, did you have your hand?
Yeah, I did have one
Oh.
update / I guess question for the host team. I understand that there was a meeting last week, or maybe it was actually earlier this week, with folks that provide overnight accommodations about this winter's cold weather plan. And it seems from the feedback I've heard that the plan is much less defined and likely much more restrictive regarding what activation will look like. And I'm just curious, some like high level updates for this group as we head into cold weather with our large locations already at or near capacity.
I can speak to that just a little bit, and if anybody else from the host team wants to jump in, I know I got an update this morning from Jared that they're still working on some of those cold weather plan finalizations. As soon as we have that information, I am happy to share that with folks. We definitely would be sharing that with providers. I'm so sorry, my dog is going crazy, but we'll get that information to you shortly. My understanding is it should be in the next couple of days, maybe week, that we should have more detail.
Great. Okay. I think we turn it over to Laura now.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jenny. I think I'll just first acknowledge, I don't think we have said yet that you'll notice that there are more participants on today's meeting than you may have seen in the past. We have those who are on the committee and staff supporting the presentation today as panelists, but we have a number of attendees, and I just want to acknowledge that our wider host team has been invited to be part of this meeting and answer questions as available, but also to hear your priorities, to hear your feedback. And it's a strategy to make sure that we make better connections between the feedback we're hearing here and the team that works to implement based on that feedback. And so I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to the host team members who are here as attendees to listen and create connectivity between your work and the advisor's feedback. It takes, as you all know, so many people to do the great work of this agency, and so excited to be sharing your feedback more broadly with those who are helping us execute all of the many strategies that are outlined in our strategic plan. So wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge that and say thank you to team members who are showing up here today to listen and participate. The next slide, we got a couple of things as updates for you, and I think you've all gotten a few emails from us over the course of the last several weeks, but I want to first acknowledge a piece of update around the leadership for host. And you saw an email likely from us over the last couple of weeks that acknowledges that Mayor Johnston has announced Sue Powers as the interim executive director for host. This is during the portion of time where his administration will continue to identify the permanent appointee. The timeline for that is not a specific timeline I have for you of a date certain. We know that there are appointments being made every day over the course of other positions within the administration. So I expect that in the coming weeks, we may know more, and certainly we'll share with the HSSA as there is more information about a permanent appointment for this position. We had expected to have Sue here today to say hello and welcome her to this position, but unfortunately she had a conflict today. So I will, on behalf of Sue, say hello to the strategic advisors. I know that some of you may have worked a little or extensively with Sue over her many years of service in our community. She's been building affordable housing from the development lens for a number of years in Urban Ventures, which has been her more recent work, but she also worked with Denver Urban Renewal Authority, DURA, for many years before that. So certainly welcome Sue to the city team. And want to acknowledge that change as far as leadership for host, as Sue works to support our agency and the administration.
And I'm going to barge in with that to say Thank you to Laura. Laura sent you all an email on Tuesday letting you know that after 10 years with the city, her last day will be Friday, September 22nd. Laura has accepted the position of Chief Operating Officer at Archway Communities starting on October 30th. And many of you may already be familiar with Archway. They work to provide access to affordable housing. They also do food security and supportive social services for people to help them thrive. So in her new role, Laura is going to oversee internal operations and work really closely with the real estate team there to support and expand projects in the pipeline. And we're very hopeful that means that she's going to continue working with us in some capacity. But also really just wanted to acknowledge today that Laura has done just a tremendous amount, just Herculean work over the last decade to make significant progress in building infrastructure, funding, housing, shelter, and other services for tens of thousands of people experiencing homelessness and housing instability in Denver. Laura was instrumental in creating 2 dedicated local funding sources for affordable housing and homelessness resolution in Denver. And that includes our Affordable Housing Fund, which is about $30 million annually, and our voter approved homelessness resolution fund, which brings us about $50 million annually. She partnered with the Denver Housing Authority to launch the D3 program, which is DHA Delivers for Denver. She's promoted long-term affordability of Denver's affordable housing stock, including our requirements for income restrictions between 60 and 99 years. And she helped launch this department, establishing support for those experiencing homelessness as a core city service, and has grown this department from a handful of folks to over 130 positions in 2023 with a budget of over $250 million. Laura also led us through the COVID-19 emergency, where we were able to make historic updates to our shelter spaces. She's helped with the inclusionary housing ordinance. She launched our linkage fee on new development, and many other things that would take so long to go over. But most of all, I think her depth of knowledge and mostly the heart and soul Laura brings to the work that we do every day, and the compassion she has as a leader, will just be very deeply missed here at Host. So we just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for everything, Laura. And my dog is in the background saying it too. Sorry for the distraction, but we really wish you the best in all of your future endeavors. And if you want to say anything about your next steps, we're very excited for you, but we'll miss you tons.
You're here. I want to echo everything you said, and I didn't have that whole list in front of me, but it's such an impressive list, and starts even when you were an aide to Councilwoman Kniech. I remember seeing you working so diligently with council to make some of these changes. And from the advisors ourselves, Laura, I'd really like to thank you. And I'm glad that you're not going very far, so that we get to continue to work with you to make a difference in the lives of people in Denver and the metro area. So thank you from all the advisors. And after you say something, I hope that you will explain the spacesuit looking thing on these pictures that I saw this morning, because I'm really curious what that is. So I'll let you speak.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Jenny. I'm proud of the list of accomplishments, but I'm really proud of the people. And this agency is an amazing acknowledgement that lived and professional expertise matter in this work, that partnerships matter in this work, and that, you know, we don't address complex challenges within a community without all of the types of partners that are on this table. And so I just want to say thank you. As I look at these pictures, I see both, you know, exciting times and also difficult times that these are representing. I remember wearing a vest in the Emergency Operations Center and being on a daily call with Josh during the pandemic while we were, you know, setting up hard things, and you know, also celebrating some of the amazing successes. And so, Jenny, to your question, I believe in a balance of seriousness and also silliness in our work. And this is a representation of the myriad hobbies that I take on and don't have time for. I sought to be an amateur beekeeper this year, and was not successful at that pursuit, but it did make for some fun gifs and images in my attempt to be a beekeeper this year. So I will try yet again next year, see if I can pursue another hobby and try that one again. So yes, this is not an actual picture of me in my bee suit, but I do have a bee suit that I'm attempting to try
That's
this new hobby
awesome.
in my world.
Some of us have seen it, so.
I was imagining
send you
cave
pictures.
diving. I didn't realize that was bees. So thank you for clarifying. And I'm sorry you weren't successful, but I hope you find either that or something else very exciting in your spare time, and you have a little more spare time.
I'll have at least a little bit of time in between things that I can pick up all these different hobbies and run with them. So I'll try again. Thank you, Jenny.
Does anybody else want to just chime in right now? I want to give all the advisors a moment.
This is Kristen on behalf of everybody at the state, Division of Housing, Department of Local Affairs, OHI. Just Laura, you've been an incredible partner. We have to do this together, right? There has to be city-state partnership, and just your expertise, but also just your communication, your partnership, your focus is just, all of that is really important to actually making this work happen. We have to have the details as well as the big picture. We have to do this together. We have to be on the same page. And I just feel like every interaction we ever have, you are focused on all of that simultaneously somehow. I feel like whenever we work together, I'm like, okay, we've got the vision, we've got the details we need to know, and you've circled back to make sure we're all on the same page. And I just can't stress enough how that doesn't always happen, and that is really important. And know that you're doing it because you care about the people that we all care about, which is our neighbors without housing. And so it's never been a doubt to me that you have literally sacrificed so much because you care about our neighbors without housing, and we have to do this together, and you've cared about those partnerships, and just really appreciate you. So glad you're not going far because we partner with Archway. So we'll keep working together, and we will keep working with the rest of Host and the rest of Denver. It is absolutely so important to keep that partnership going. So all that great work you've done, that baton is getting passed. We will do our best at the state to keep that going, and just appreciate you. And let's just keep working together. Thank you. And I hope you do get to do, if beekeeping doesn't work, I've got chickens. They're a lot more low maintenance, a lot easier, and they give you eggs. Not as good as honey, but it's much easier. So happy to talk to you about chicken tending. I don't even know what the word is, but yeah.
This is an affirmation that I take on too many things. Chris and I also have chickens. So this is in addition to that hobby, which is terrible. And
so
yes,
impressive. You impress, you just continue to impress. There you
That's
go.
awesome. Those are two things I've always wanted to do and didn't do. So you guys are good. You just jump right in there.
My husband won't let me get a goat.
That's my goal too. I want to go. Okay, we'll have to talk.
Not to mention having 2 little kids at home. She's just amazing. So thank you, Laura.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else?
All right. So next up, Host updates. I'm not sure who is on board. Laura, okay.
I will take this one. Thank you. I think we just wanted to give a couple of updates on just some items either folks have asked some questions about or that have been hot topics since the last time that we have all met together. And so this first one is just a quick update on the House 1,000 initiative that was launched by Mayor Johnston's administration in July. A number of our team members within Host and around the city have been activated to the Emergency Operations Center to really help shepherd these efforts and the goals under House 1,000. Just as a reminder, that's a goal to bring 1,000 individuals who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness indoors, which could either be housing or shelter by the end of 2023. So those efforts are underway. But just wanted to give an update that Mayor Johnston gave a press conference earlier this week outlining some information around the budget for this initiative in 2023. That includes roughly $48 million that is being planned and allocated for the House 1,000 initiative. About $37 million of those 48 million came from host. That is intersecting some resources that were already planned for this year for things around unsheltered homelessness and encampment resolution, and some prioritization of available resources towards this initiative. So I want to just acknowledge that that came from both of those places. But the first encampment resolution efforts are moving forward to try and connect people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness to indoor options as part of this broader initiative. And in addition to the effort to bring people indoors, there's also work to help provide support through trash and portalet services to those who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So those are ongoing and getting ramped up as part of this broader effort. So I'll go through all of the updates, and then if there's any questions to come back on particular things, you can just let me know. So flag if there's anything that you have clarifications on. The next thing on here is Warren Village. This is a supportive housing project that we had a groundbreaking for over the last couple of weeks. It will provide 89 income restricted apartments, and 79 of those 89 are going to be supportive housing with the wraparound services to help those who are exiting an experience of homelessness. This project is particularly exciting because it's the first investment that the city has made into a city-funded voucher. We've leveraged state and federal vouchers in the past, but this is the first time that we're using local funds to support a voucher. The project is really an exciting partnership with Warren Village, which is the third project that they're moving forward for affordable housing with low income and single parent families to help exit poverty to stability and self-sufficiency. There's anywhere from 1 to 3 bedroom units as part of this development. And what's also exciting about this development is that it's the first place that an early learning center is co-located with supportive housing, and that's the only place in Colorado to have both of those services at the same site. So excited to see Warren Village breaking ground, and this project will be under development over the course of the coming months and year. I'm excited to see this open within our community. So congrats to the whole team that made that possible. It took a lot of work to make a voucher program a reality, but that's an exciting movement forward. We also want to just acknowledge that you have probably heard us talk in the past about our homeless advisory meetings that are held quarterly with people who are directly experiencing homelessness. It's an opportunity for us to hear priorities and feedback from those who are experiencing homelessness. It represents those who are experiencing homelessness across the board, but we do see a lot of those who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness who attend those meetings. We are holding our next meeting on Friday the 22nd, so next week, at the 20th Street Recreation Center. This is a longer meeting than we've held in the past. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have a little different of a format that we're utilizing for this as part of that longer meeting with breakout groups, and are coordinating with the mayor's office as part of the structure and conducting that meeting. So we're excited to be trying out this new format and to be holding this meeting that provides extended amounts of time for feedback from our community. And then the last thing on here is the Housing Resource Fair, which is 4 free housing resource fairs that are being held this fall to provide people in the community resources on the rental support side, including information about rental rights and eviction or temporary rental and utility assistance supports, how to prepare for homeownership, how to access resources that might help a homeowner stay in their home, as well as homeowner rights and other resources around HOAs and foreclosures. There will be Spanish interpretation, as well as activities for any people who might bring little kiddos as part of that, who need childcare support. And maybe we can throw this into an email for everybody, Sabrina, in case we haven't already provided it with dates. But there are 4 fairs that are going to be in the morning from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Saturday the 16th at Montbello Rec Center, and Saturday the 30th of September at the Athmar Rec Center. And then 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. for Saturday, October 7th at the Barnum Rec Center, and October 21st at the Johnson Rec Center. Again, those are 10:30 to 1:30 for the second set. So if we could at least pop the link in the chat to denvergov.org/housing fair, you can find information about all of those if you are interested in attending or have community members that you think are interested in attending. Those are upcoming opportunities to have more learnings about resources and support.
And we do have flyers posted there in both English and Spanish if those are helpful for your organizations.
Great. Let me pause there and see if you have any questions on that before we go to the next slide.
Sorry. Anyone have questions?
I have budget questions on House 1000, but I think they're most appropriate for the budget overview, so I'll wait.
Great. Thanks, Jenny. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Well, with that, we made a commitment to you guys last year, actually, that once our dashboards were up and public, that we would try to be bringing these back to you on a regular basis. And so really want to make sure that we're reporting out to you at each meeting on our progress, particularly toward the goals that are in our 5-year strategic plan. So this is just a screenshot of what is available on our website, and you can find that at denvergov.org/housing 5-year plan. We can throw that in the chat as well. But these are the targets for those goals. There is much more deep dive into all of the different pillars of our organization and all of the work that we're doing behind the scenes, tracking the data on this. So I really encourage you to go to that website and check it out if you haven't been kind of watching the progress. These get updated on a monthly basis. Some of the metrics are only updated annually, so I'll talk about those as we go. But since the plan was adopted nearly 2 years ago, we are mostly on track with our 12 goals. So wanted to go over those with you in a little more detail here. You'll see, and I'm going to start sort of at the top, work my way to the right down each pillar. In housing opportunity, you'll see that we are at 1,100 units created toward our goal of 6,000. Again, this is one of those metrics that only gets updated every year. So we'll see more to come on that down the road. And Polly, please jump in and add anything or correct me if I say anything wrong. Nearly a third of the way toward our goal of 900 new permanent supportive housing units, which is really exciting. We've also increased our BIPOC homeownership from 41 to 44%. In housing stability, evictions, as you all know, continue to be on the rise since the pandemic, and we're seeing record numbers of those. So those numbers will are still yet to come in terms of reporting, but we are expecting to see those continue to rise. We are about a third of the way through implementing our prioritization policy, which is really exciting. So obviously that's been adopted, but Polly's doing a lot of work to get that new website up and running and get us all ready to go for that. It's very exciting. More to come on that. We have reduced foreclosures, as I'm reading this, from 10 to 2, but Polly, maybe that's one you can give me some clarification on, because I think that I might be reading that backward. And then we also have a benchmark rate for household mobility that is coming soon. So more to come on that one. In our homelessness resolution pillar, we have not yet begun reporting on reducing unsheltered homelessness, but we are working on that, and especially with the House 1000 initiative, which will also have its own dashboard that our team is putting together. But we have served 2,559 households in rehousing and supportive housing toward our goal of 3,000, which is amazing. Veteran homelessness, you heard a little bit about earlier. There are some really great gains being made there, but we have not yet put out those numbers, so more to come there. We are increasing exits from family shelter and outreach to housing at 31.5% toward our 50% goal. And we've reduced the average stay in shelter from 357 days to 305 days toward our goal of 90 days. For operations, you'll see the first and the last metric there, both are empty right now. That's our communications goal and our data reporting tools. These are going to be updated on an annual basis, but we were able to set our baseline this year with our first annual survey at the beginning of the year. And so we have set those goals to improve communications channels from what was 37% in our satisfaction rate in our survey this year to 45%. And then increasing community satisfaction with our reporting tools from 40%, which was our baseline this year, to 48%. Our average working days to fully execute a contract has gone from 127 to 90 days is the goal, and we have already exceeded that, and it's now 61 days for new development contracts. Our procurement decisions have also been reduced from 47 to 23 days, which exceeds our goal of 30 days. And our invoice processing time has been reduced from 21 to 17 days on the way toward our goal of 7. So making really significant progress on those 5-year strategic plan goals. Want to continue to encourage you to go check out the dashboard, check out the deeper dives on each of these pillars and the numbers that we're tracking and how those all look. And then you can also see on a number of these, we have little circles next to them that indicate that you can actually click on those and see a different metric that we're using toward that goal as well. So any questions on the dashboard or things we can answer on the 5-year targets?
That was really helpful.
Well, with that, then I guess we'll jump right into that budget overview that Jenny was asking about. So I will kick that over. Laura, are you doing this one?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So we also had a press conference this week on the 24 budget. I mentioned earlier a press conference on the 23 budget, or a presentation on the 23 budget, but the 2024 budget was also released this week. So this includes a few different things for just Department of Housing Stability, including some expansions. And then I'll give some insight into what it looks like as a big picture for our budget for this year. And the big number to know is $242 million for the Department of Housing Stability for 2024. So these resources include some expansions to help Denverites resolve experiences of homelessness and move to housing with support services, including some expansions to be in support of the mayor's House 1,000 goals in 2024. We got an expansion, and we'll do a full presentation to City Council on these issues and budget on Wednesday next week, the 20th. So this includes some expansions for House 1,000. It also includes some expansions for rental assistance and utility assistance as we roll off of the ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and also some expansions for next year in rapid rehousing to help support those who are exiting homelessness as part of the House 1,000 initiative to help them connect to stability through that housing exit. This is in addition to resources that are in the current budget for affordable homeownership and rental housing development, and we'll break that down a little bit more. But I think, Sabrina, I didn't see a slide in here on the expansion requests alone in those numbers. So I might just read those verbally here so you have an understanding of what to expect as far as what are the new resources. So we got in the support for next year, $26.7 million to support the House 1,000 initiative. That includes operations for micro communities, as well as support for hotels and non-congregate shelter options for operations and other items. We also got $7.5 million for rapid rehousing investments to, again, help resolve experiences of unsheltered homelessness connected to the House 1,000 initiative. We received $8.8 million in new resources for rent and utility assistance to build upon our current supports for that within the budget to, again, help with the roll-off of the ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program resources. We also got some capital supports in next year's budget, $5 million associated with capital costs for micro communities. If there's a need for, infrastructure, construction, or other capital related investments. And then also $3.9 million in capital improvements to our 248th Avenue shelters that just include some building improvements for 4600 East 48th Avenue Shelter, as well as 4330 East 48th Shelter, a men's and women's shelter. And then we got some support for ongoing outreach positions, as well as pay for performance contracting in 2024. So those are the things that are expansions in next year's budget, just at a high level. And let me use the next couple of slides to show you how does that add up to a full picture for host and complement the other things that are part of our budget. So this is the breakdown of the $242 million for host in next year's budget. And you can see this is a breakout by color of the different resources. I'll just go bottom up. So the red portion at the bottom represents our general fund contributions from the city at that $36.5 million. That's a local source of funding. It primarily supports homelessness programs and our administrative costs that might fund positions and services. And we have above that our two dedicated affordable housing funds that are for affordable housing and then homelessness resolution in the blue and in the yellow. That are the ongoing resources for housing, homelessness, and other services. Then we also have our resources from, it looks maybe just as a note, Sabrina, it looks like the federal funds might be.
Yes, I just noticed that too.
Okay, so that one might be missing in the stack. We can get that corrected for the next version. But we have some federal funds that are available to the city as an entitlement jurisdiction from the federal government, HUD, as well as some other smaller funds that contribute to affordable housing and homelessness that might be historic funds or other special revenue funds. And you see at the very top, the green color is the COVID response and recovery resources. So that includes some of the things that I just said as an overview are expansions for host in 2024 for the House 1000 initiative and supports for rental and utility assistance and rapid rehousing, but it also includes some items that were allocated in the 2023 budget, but that will actually expend in the 2024 year, where there's something that might have rolled across those 2 years. Let me pause there and see if there's any questions on the big picture before I break the big picture down into how we spend it.
So this includes the expansion funds, which are mostly general fund or COVID response and recovery funds, right?
It's mostly COVID response, but some general fund, yes.
Thanks.
Yep. So the next slide just aims to break down. We use some categories in our action plans that are categories that we break down our funds to investment types, our investment areas. And so this just gives you a quick snapshot of a comparison between 2023 and 2024 across those different investment buckets that we use within the action plan. And I'll show you an image of 2024 as a breakdown in a different graphic. But the big takeaway is there's largely stability across years in the investment types that we're putting resources in total towards. So you see unit development and preservation, direct investment from hosts, as well as through the D3 agreement, housing assistance, which has gone up in 2024 with that investment into rapid rehousing and rent and utility assistance. Shelter and services has gone down a little bit, but not in a dramatic way across years. And administration is largely stable between 2023 and 2024. So just wanted to give you a snapshot of how different 24 looks from 23, but in general, similar in proportion across the different areas of investment. The next two slides break down the full budget, that full 242 across the pillars of host. So our homelessness resolution, housing stability, housing opportunity pillars that our organization is aligned around. And the next slide breaks it down by investment type. So if we go back to pillars, you can absorb here for a second. This breaks it down in how it's allocated across the different pillars for our total budget, for just the Homelessness Resolution Fund. That's what HRF stands for. And then just the Affordable Housing Fund. That's what AHF stands for. And then all of the other resources that are combined across. You can kind of see how it breaks out across those different funding sources, and see the Homelessness Resolution Fund is largely going towards homelessness resolution. Affordable Housing Fund goes more towards housing opportunity, but across the total budget, how that breaks out across all sources. The next slide breaks it down by, again, those same investment type categories. And similarly for our total budget, the Homelessness Resolution Fund, the Affordable Housing Fund, and then all of the other resources combined into that final bucket. I think the thing that I would draw out, especially on the total budget line, is that a majority of our resources, if you see the 29 plus the 4 plus the 21, that equals 54% of our resources that are going towards housing investments. So the majority of our resources go towards housing as our investment type across unit development, where we're directly investing, the DHA D3 agreement payment, which is our property tax component of the Affordable Housing Fund that goes to DHA, which made possible their issuance of bonds, and then other housing assistance. This might be rental assistance, it might be rapid rehousing, or other ways that we're supporting with a housing type support. Those in total add up to 54%. So I just want to acknowledge that as a takeaway at the balance of our resources across these different ways that we spend supports. Let me just pause and see if there's any budget questions. We'll talk a little bit more about how that translates into outcomes with the action plan overview. How many units does that mean? And other supports. But I just want to see if there's any questions about how resources are spent before we move on from the budget slides.
Does anyone have questions before I launch in? Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Laura. That was really helpful. And I know this all just rolled out this week. I'm curious, I'm excited to see an expansion in housing stability resources. I was trying to figure out how, I guess my question is, like, when we look at 2023 or 2022 and what, without ERAP, it looks like there's an expansion through this investment of ARPA resource to housing stability. And I'm curious to know if that's true and how much that might be. I know it's in the housing assistance, right? So
it is in the housing assistance. So our existing resources plus the new 8.8 does get us to a total of $12.6 million that's supporting the overall rental assistance investment in 2024. But Sabrina, I think you did some of the analysis around how that compares to other years. And I think that's part of Jenny's question. I want to make sure that we give you an opportunity to respond to that. Or if we need to follow up on that question with the real numbers, I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, we did a little bit of analysis for that because the mayor's very excited about this being a historic investment, and it is from our local funds. It is about the same amount that it has been in years past in terms of the amount of increase, which I think was close to $8 million. So it's going up, but that's also acknowledging that it's from different sources. So you're correct that ERAP has gone away, but we are investing as a city in those rent and utility assistance programs about the same as we have in the past in terms
about
of
the same as when we just had
increase.
TRUA, or, you know, whatever.
So the increase in the amount for rental assistance last year was about the same as the increase in rental assistance again this year.
I don't know if I understand. I'm sorry. So if we looked at, like, without ERAP, are you saying the city's investment in emergency housing stability resources is staying pretty consistent?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not an increase at all. And then another question I had is, it looked like the resources for housing development have gone down, or for the pipeline of development. Is that? true?
We received an infusion of resources for the Affordable Housing Fund in the second tranche last year of the American Rescue Plan Act. So the number you see between 23 and 24, yes, it's lower for 24. And that's in part because we had a historic investment that expanded the support for the pipeline in 2023 that made that a higher number than usual for 2023. But Renee, I saw you popped on as well. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you captured it all. The historic investment came in a couple of tranches and has primarily been put out the door. So we're kind of reverting back to our more typical levels without that ARPA resource.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, it's hard to understand like where we're landing in some ways because of the pandemic and some of those resources. And then last question I have is, we've got 79 million in ARPA pandemic resources in the budget, covering many things, which is great that those are being allocated to host and your activities and projects. And I don't know if you guys can even answer this question yet with the new administration, but are there plans to start to figure out what it would look like when those resources are utilized and they're not available anymore, to make sure that we can still meet the goals of the 5-year plan?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Jenny. I think it's definitely a big need within our community, but also other communities that received ARPA resources beyond the city as well. And so I think that those are conversations that the new administration will need to have over the course of the coming years. I want to just acknowledge that ARPA resources have to be encumbered in 2024, but they can be spent by 2026. So this is a big year for encumbrances, but we do have a little longer of a timeline for those to be spent down. So it's not necessarily a cliff that we fall off in 2024. I just want to acknowledge that there is a spending timeline that extends beyond this year. So just for awareness, and I definitely appreciate the context and the priority in the question.
That's a good question. Okay, or a good point.
Jenny, I just want to, because I'm not the budget expert, I'm a words girl, not a numbers girl. I just want to come back to you because I just double checked with Jennifer. So we're expected to spend $20 million this year in 2023 with ERAP plus our local funds. And then we have 8.8 million more than we would have had in 2024 if we hadn't received an additional ARPA infusion. So it'll be 12.6 million.
Okay.
It's actually less this year
than it was with ERAP, but more than it was in the past before ERAP. Okay, that's helpful.
And
okay.
I can follow up with you with more details on that if you'd like. I just don't have the same aptitude for budget that Jennifer.
I think you're doing great. Thank you. And I'll stop peppering you guys with questions. I don't know if anyone else has other questions for the team. Kristen?
I just had one quick question. I feel like back one of the slides, you mentioned that part of the 242 million, I think the first bullet said focused on ending folks' homelessness and moving them to transitional housing. Yes, this one, thank you. That first bullet there says resolve homelessness and move into transitional housing. I was just a little confused by, is it saying that the aim is to resolve the homelessness by moving people into transitional housing? Because I think, as we all know, that doesn't resolve, transitional housing does not resolve someone's homelessness. So I didn't know if those were two separate bullets or how they're related. Just wanted to just make sure I was understanding that line there. Thanks.
Sabrina, you may have more context on the specific words that were used, but I think this is related. This is language that was used in the budget letter as well. So I think this is related to the House 1,000 initiative of bringing people indoors. And it may be the words transitional housing, Kristen, to dig in on there, because I think the micro communities are a sheltering intervention on the path to a stable exit from homelessness. And so that might be the wording, and we can take that feedback back. But I think bringing, some people may go straight to a resolution of an experience of homelessness because they may get a rapid rehousing support, or they may go through a voucher directly to a housing unit. And then others may come indoors to some sort of sheltering option, congregate, non-congregate, a tiny home, pallet shelter, or a tiny home community, and then exit from there to stable housing. And that is part of the support for rapid rehousing in 2024, is to create more of those pathways out. So thanks for that clarification. I think just to articulate the intent there. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, also a clarifying question. While I understand that the earmarked funds to stand up the hotels, all the efforts in regards to the bring 1,000 people indoors effort between now and the end of the year are unique dollars, does the operational cost of those efforts in 2024 fall within these like all of these areas, or is there a unique, I guess, way that those are being I guess in 2024? Like how's that being paid for in 2024?
So we can maybe, Sabrina, follow up with the breakout to see what the expansions are, or if you'd like to tune in next Wednesday to see this at City Council. But there's an expansion in 2024 for the House 1,000 initiative, and that's $26.7 million in operating subsidies that is above the existing budget, and then $5 million for capital supports that might be related to the sites themselves. That's again above the existing budget that are expansions for 24 and host.
Great. Well, we are moving right along. I want to make sure we leave plenty of time to talk about the action plan. So if you are all okay with that, we'll go ahead and I'll kick it over to Polly Kyle so that she can walk us through all of the great work she's done, taking the priorities you all have identified for us, and we did in our community survey, and turned it into 2024's plan.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Polly Kyle. I'm a housing policy officer with HOST, and I had the great pleasure to take on the action plan drafting for 2024. So excited to be here and talk through some of our priorities. First up, so our proposed priorities for homelessness resolution, we're really focusing on goals 1, 2, and 4. The first goal is to address unsheltered homelessness, and this is really talking about the House 1,000 effort by bringing an additional 1,000 people out of unsheltered homelessness, by adding additional funding for hotel conversions and ongoing operations, micro communities, as well as rapid rehousing. So that's goal 1's priority. Goal 2 is expanding pathways to successful rehousing. We're expanding support for supportive housing pipeline by working with partners and maximizing the effectiveness of housing choice vouchers. And lastly, goal 4, improve the homelessness resolution system for families. This is also about housing choice vouchers and partnering with Denver Housing Authority on a strategic use of homelessness preference. So those are kind of the top priorities. And I just want to say, I also am doing the tracking of the 2023 priorities, and with external priorities and internal priorities that help support all of these external facing goals. We have 152 strategies that HOST is working on every day. So a lot of work is going into supporting achieving these goals and making real progress towards our 5-year targets. Next slide, please. So for housing opportunity, we are focusing on goals 1 and 2. The first is expand access to affordable housing opportunities, and that's developing and preserving over 1,700 homes through investment in the affordable housing pipeline, strategic acquisitions of hotels, and effective implementation of Denver's mandatory affordable housing ordinance. And this is advancing Mayor Johnston's goal to create and preserve 3,000 affordable units annually. On the next slide, we'll do a breakdown of what those 1,700 units look like. And then also under this goal is expanding the affordable housing review team, which we had a great overview at our last meeting, to ensure efficient consideration and review of affordable housing projects and reduce permitting times. This is also in Mayor Johnston's budget, so we'll continue to partner with CPD to make sure that we are working hand in hand with the AHART team. And then under goal 2, preserve existing affordable housing, updating the preservation ordinance to align with long-term affordability goals and priorities for use of preservation funds. So here is the breakdown of the housing type and then our 2024 target. So the first piece is those rental homes. We're looking at creating 565 rental homes, and then the breakdown from there, there'll be 92 deeply affordable rental homes, and then 56 3 or more bedroom homes as well. Rental homes preserved, we're looking at 325. For sale homes created, 110. For sale homes preserved, 92. We're looking at 223 units of supportive housing. And then our estimates have us at 450 units of mandatory housing units. And that total brings us to 1,765. So that's where those unit breakdowns are. Next slide.
Could you remind us what the mandatory housing units are?
The mandatory housing units, yes, great question. That's a little bit of lingo that I should have explained. So mandatory housing units come from expanding housing affordability policy. The policy that was put in place, we are expecting to get 450 units from that policy.
It's nice to see that start to mean something. That's
yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Very excited for that. All right, next slide. So housing stability, working on really honing in on 2 goals. The first, help households remain in their home and neighborhood of choice. So we're investing that $12.6 million in rent and utility assistance to help households stabilize in housing. We're going to explore and identify some possible funding sources for housing stability to increase levels of support that can be provided beyond that emergency and pandemic recovery. So this, we were talking about earlier, thinking about those funds not going away immediately, but what can we do to backfill those? So looking into that. And then also we're going to be working with Denver Public Schools and the Denver Office of Children's Affairs to develop communication strategies and referral systems for programs that support housing stabilization of families with children. So really honing in on that strategy this year. And then goal 2 is really focused on reducing evictions. So providing legal counsel and eviction proceedings with at least 2,000 households annually, and to increase the proportion of low and moderate income households facing eviction who have legal representation. And now operations, the glue that holds all of those pillars together. We have a few goals. I have a second slide with operation goals, but goal 1 is focused on expanding communications and community engagement. We're really going to be prioritizing language access and culturally appropriate messaging, and develop and implement engagement strategies that go beyond city council and RNOs and really focuses on that 2-way communication with more intentional listening. Goal Goal 2 is expand and support partnerships through transparent, efficient, effective procurement, contracting, and financial processes. We'll be updating host business practices to take advantage of the expanded functionality and improved data system to provide more efficient electronic contracting and invoicing processing and tracking to our partners. Next slide. And goal 3 is deepen our data infrastructure. We're planning for additional data collection and analysis efforts, a housing need analysis that will better inform host work and understanding of community need. And then goal 4, advanced citywide and regional approaches, including policy and legislative agenda. We'll be utilizing the new host database to complete the implementation of the prioritization policy, and also doing rules and regs for that policy as well. And that, I'm happy to take some questions, and do just want to reiterate, these are just the really top priority goals that we're working on and strategies to support those goals. But there is a lot of work that is being done every day to move us forward with our 5-year plan.
Anybody have questions? Thank you, Polly.
Yeah.
Anybody have? No, I have one. Has this, it doesn't look like it, but can you remind us, has anything in the action plan besides the addition of that 1,000 unit goal of the mayor's changed much?
I wouldn't say that it's changed much. We've refocused into different areas, but in terms of like alignment with the 5-year strategic plan, our priorities and our goals remain the same. And if we were to change goals, that would actually need to go back to City Council for approval, since it was a City Council adopted plan. So we stay true to those, but bring in new priorities and strategies to help support the goals moving forward.
I just wanted to add, just as a reminder, that as you all know, we did a community survey in advance of drafting this plan this year, which I'm really proud of. We used to not put anything out for public comment until after it was already drafted, and it felt a little bit already baked at that point. And so this year we really made a strong effort to get a community survey out. We had really strong response to that helped guide you all as you had conversations about it earlier in the year, and pointing us to where we should really be prioritizing these goals. So thank you for all of your input on that. The draft is currently with review in the mayor's office, and we're finalizing the designed version of that with some final photos and things. So we are hoping to have the draft of the action plan to you probably in the next week or two. I'm hoping by next week, but we'll keep you posted on that. We will give you time to go ahead and get us your input and comments, and then we'll be putting that out for public comment as well. We used to put it out for about a full month for public comment, but because we got so much input on the front end this year, we'll probably shorten our public comment period on it to a shorter amount of time. We found that most people don't comment until the last week anyway. So we give them a deadline and they wait until the end. So we'll probably shorten up that comment period a little bit so that we can make any additional changes based on this final input on the draft. And then we will get you a final version of that prior to your December meeting, where we will be asking you all to vote on the final 2024 action plan. And that will be our final agenda item for this year's HSSA meetings. So that is the plan. If you have any questions about any of that, let us know. Always happy to take feedback from you at any time during this process. As you know, you can just reach out to me or Polly directly. Any questions about next steps? Holy smokes, with that, we are kind of at the end of our meeting, and we are a few minutes early for once, which like never happens, but our next meeting will be on November 17th. Oh yeah, so sorry, I misspoke and said December. my apologies, November 17th is when we'll be asking for your final approval of that action plan. So looking forward to seeing you all there. And just wanted to also say thank you all for being here today. We had tried to do the in-person hybrid meeting with a little bit of too many technology problems, and it was really creating some issues for all of our attendees, both advisors and the public, as well as those who were attending in person. So I know it has been disappointing to some not to see everybody's faces in person. We can always try at that again in the future, but really wanted to make sure that we had full participation here. So sorry to see that Randy didn't make it, but I did also want to note that Thomas Allen did join during the meeting. So thank you, Thomas. Wanted to acknowledge your attendance as well. Any
Yeah,
final questions or comments before we let you all go?
Thank you for trying the in-person. We appreciate that. So I know it was hard. Thank you all.
Thank you. And with that, we'll close today's meeting and we will see you November 17th. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have
Bye.
a great weekend.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Al.